Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we have a special founders interview. Rodrigo from Moonray, an upcoming play-to-earn game. And this one, you're going to want to watch front to back as there's plenty of alpha leaks. So welcome back to the channel, Rodrigo. Pleasure to have you on. If you're going to start off with a brief introduction as to who you are and what you do, your kind of role at Moonray.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm the CEO and founder of Moonray PBC, which is the company that's building Moonray. I started this project, 3 years ago. Started putting the team together 2 years ago, and just been working on it, nonstop, since the beginning. Our team is growing real fast now, and now we've been, we just closed our first round of funding. We're entering our second round of funding now, and getting ready to release, the game, at least release something soon.
Yeah, we did see that that's been in the mix for quite a while. So clearly, you've developed this. Was it mainly yourself from the beginning? Like, what was the backdrop here?
Yeah, I mean, initially it started just me, and then bit by bit, I started adding people that I found, that I thought were compatible with what I wanted to do. Some of them from the game industry, a lot of them from outside the game industry. Initially, I found a lot of artists, especially that were like, not traditional game artists, but were doing interesting stuff. A lot of algorithmic stuff that I really like. That's how we started doing like the real-time simulations that I've always, really liked, or art styles that were a little bit different. So right now our team is, I'd say it's probably majority people that don't come from the game industry, actually. Okay.
That's pretty interesting. So could you give us kind of a high level overview of like the gameplay and the story behind Moonray? And kind of, from what I've seen, it just differentiates a lot from what else is on the market.
Yeah. So the reason I started this is because I just wanted to do something that was different in gaming. Unreal Engine is extremely powerful, and even more so now with UE5. So the amount of power in general that you get with real-time gaming just now is incredible. And I saw every project doing basically the same game over and over and over. And I just get really bored with that. So it's like medieval games, like, you can't even count how many medieval games there are, near future sci-fi. And those are cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I played those games too, but I just thought there's a chance to do something that's really new and different with a different visual aesthetic and like tell a different kind of story. So, Moonray is going to be, it's a third person action RPG. So there's going to be really three main components to it, actually four. There's a single player campaign, which is going to play like an open world action RPG. So, think of like Witcher, Red Dead Redemption, that kind of game, which is, open world, kind of classic stuff, but set in this universe that we're creating, which is really far future. Then there's going to be the multiplayer component, which over time is going to be the most important part. There's going to be co-op missions, which are going to be really tied into the token economy. Going to be very important in the blockchain economics. And then there's going to be PvP battles. That I think PvP is probably going to be the biggest part of it. I think it's going to be what most people are interested in, over the long term, just because everyone likes that kind of competitive fighting. And that may be the first thing that we release is like the beta of the PvP, real soon. So those are the three main types of gameplay. And then we are going to have, what I think is a real metaverse, which is, the cities, the multiplayer cities. There's going to be more than one. And for us, the multiplayer city is, a persistent 3D, online environment with social and economic interactions. So it's not going to be a place for combat, but it's going to be a place to, you log in. It's going to be like the social hub. You log into Moonray, you're in the city, you walk around and meet up with your friends. That's where you can do all sorts of economic transactions. Maybe some of the resource gathering will happen in these multiplayer city environments, but mostly from the cities, you will then jump into a single player game, a co-op mission, or a PvP battle. So it's just like the social hub for Moonray.
Yeah, so that would be somewhere where if you didn't particularly want to play for NFTs or you didn't want to, put up some of your collateral, you could just go in there, hang out, meet up with people, and kind of socialize in a kind of metaverse experience, is it?
Exactly. There's going to be land. You're going to be able to buy land, customize it in different ways. And then that's going to affect your participation in the token economy. Okay. So say, you want to be more just on the crafting side of things, where you can do all of that in the multiplayer city, and you may never ever really get into any of the crazy gameplay necessarily. I mean, you could. What we want to do is create different types of ways for different types of gamers to enjoy Moonray. And if you don't like the competitive PvP stuff, you don't ever have to touch it. There's going to be a way for you to be in the metaverse, still taking part in the social side of things and the economic side of things, and maybe the resources that you need to craft, and mint your own NFTs. Maybe you collect them yourselves, or maybe you're buying that from other people that are doing that. But you could potentially just hang out in the metaverse and never touch, any of the other gameplay,
and still make some money from it as well.
And still make money, yeah. So it's mainly going to be, I think, economic and social is the way that we look at it.
That sounds super cool. So in terms of the gameplay trailer, maybe some people who are watching this haven't seen it as yet. And you touched on this already, but the kind of environmental mechanics are really unique. So these are the algorithms that you mentioned. So when you move the avatar, it like changes the landscape around. How did you implement that? It's something I haven't seen in any other game.
It's basically, we're programming, it's shaders that we program on the GPU.
Okay.
So it's all real-time algorithms that are different types of physics simulations. And we use that to deform everything around the player. So it's all sorts of different types of like fluid dynamics, essentially. And that's just kind of our idea of like what a really futuristic technology should look like. So what I think it should look like is something that's like simple, organic. It's more like, that's kind of the aesthetic of the game, that we don't build things out of pieces necessarily. Everything looks like it's, 3D printed or grown in a sense. And that to me just feels a lot more futuristic. And so then the idea of these powers that you have as a player, this ability to deform the landscape, is that sort of technology. So it's all related to the amount of the elements in the game, which we call meum, that the more meum you have, the more power you have over the environment. And that's sort of what's reflected in those deformations you see on the landscape.
So would the deformations be greater the more meum your character has?
It'll be like you can basically get different, let's think of them as spells, and when you equip them, that'll change those deformations. And then when you cast a spell, it'll change the way that the landscape reacts, with the fluids. And then those are going to be a class of like NFT skin. So you'll be able to customize the look of that with NFTs that you can either, buy, or eventually that you'll be able to, mint yourself with some procedural randomness in the actual final visuals.
Yeah. Do you want to touch on like some of the other designers on the team and stuff? Because I've noticed some of the artwork. I can't remember the guy's name. We were following him on OpenSea, who does some of the characters. Just some really incredible looking stuff. Who have you got there working with you?
So, on the, I'm really excited about the creative team that we're putting together. There's a few things that we're doing that I think are going to be a little bit different. I mean, number one, like the writers and lead concept artists come from the comic book industry. So they're comic artists. They're used to telling like really cool, like sort of complicated stories. They made a comic book called Prophet, which I loved. It's like one of my favorite comics of all time. Came out like 6-7 years ago, I think. It was really far future, like really crazy stuff. So these are guys that are used to thinking, in just really strange ways. So they're the ones that are writing the story and creating the whole like the lore and the background of the world. On the side of the other artists that we're collaborating with, we haven't really announced, we haven't made anything public yet, and I'm gonna hold off on that. But we're working with a lot of procedural artists that are right now. I mean, some of them are already doing NFTs. Some of them don't come from the NFT space at all, but they're really at the forefront of these new techniques of using procedural algorithms to generate content. And that for us is something that's really important. Because you can just get a very different look. That's how we kind of create this kind of like unique type of visual style. We just do it in a different way. So, that's why, I really don't think of ourselves so much as a game studio, even though we're making a game, because the game industry just has like very kind of like standard processes for doing things. Yeah. And we're just going to do something different. So, I mean, I think that like the next generation of like, gaming company, we don't think it's going to be either a game company or a crypto company that succeeds in this space. It's going to be a new type of company. It's going to take elements of the game industry to elements of the crypto industry, and it's going to create something new. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're working on. So we have like a very diverse team with a lot of different backgrounds, because we get ideas from a lot of different people. And that's part of the computational designers that we work with, do that. And in fact, a lot of them come from the world of architecture. They don't even come from gaming at all.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense as to kind of the imagery we've seen so far then. In terms of, you've touched on this already, but the game release, Is there a kind of a strict timeline as to when we're going to get the first early access, and you've kind of mentioned already PvP coming first potentially, maybe the MMO by the end of 2022. Is that kind of a timeline you're looking for?
Yeah, so end of Q1, we're going to release something that's going to be playable, early access. We're still debating whether it's going to be the first part of the single player campaign, or it might just be, essentially like the beta of the PvP battles and the first few arenas. It's going to kind of depend on how some things go with development, but we want to have something out there real soon that's playable. So that we start getting feedback from the community as to gameplay, what they like, what they don't like. We don't want to sell any NFTs until we have something public imminent, right? In other words, we don't want to have NFTs out there that you can't do anything with. So we're holding off on any NFT sales until we have something that's playable or something that we're going to release within a few weeks.
Okay.
We want everything you buy to immediately be playable in the game, somehow. And the NFTs are going to be, skins, essentially initially skins and things like that. So that's why we're timing everything for probably like an end of Q1, first playable demo. And that's then where we're going to start with our NFT drops.
So yeah, we had the pre-sale passes circulating. I think a few of us have already grabbed some on OpenSea. So that'll be towards maybe February, March of next year when we'll be able to get our hands on some of those collections.
That's right. And then, the MMO aspect of it, we're planning, I think that we'll have the first, version of like a multiplayer city this next summer.
Yeah.
And then from there, it'll just be scaling, just making everything bigger, adding more and more server capacity, et cetera. So that by the end of next year, we want to have, we're going to be releasing content on just like a continuous basis, right? Like we don't think of this in terms of like separate releases. It's more of like a living game. We'll just be adding more to the single player campaign, adding multiplayer missions, adding more maps for PvP, adding different game modes, adding different types of tournaments that you can take part in. And then the MMO cities, we'll just make them, bigger and bigger. And there will be various different cities depending on the faction that you want to be part of. But we want to have at least, working, beta versions of all of this next summer. And then we're just spending our time just polishing and making everything better and better and better as the years go on. Yeah.
In terms of timelines, I know it's always a sticky situation with development. Do you feel like you're on track at this moment in time for all this?
I mean, for the Q1, yes. Cool. I mean, we have things working. We're just kind of polishing, and just a question of, we want to release something that's stable, and that's presentable. And I think we'll get there. And then it's also, I guess we'll have to see kind of like how, I'm really keen on the PvP. So I think, that's probably where we're going to focus on first. And then it's like, is it 1-on-1, 2-on-2? How far, how confident do we feel of how clean all the code is, by then.
With that,
but we're designing everything right now with PvP balancing in mind.
Okay, and once you go live with PvP, would the kind of the in-game economy be rolled out at that point as well? So our skins, etc.
Yeah, I mean, our token is going to launch Q2 next year, but possibly sooner. We may release it in Q1. We may do something very different from any other game out there in terms of our token and how it actually works. So that's something that we're actually debating right now. It's a huge decision for us because the entire industry is doing one type of token, and we may do a different type of token. I don't want to get into too many details now, but it is one of the benefits of being on Stacks is that it's just a different technology from the way other blockchains work, and it gives us a different way of doing things. I mean, so we're essentially looking at the city coins model, the way that they're funding Miami and New York, and some version of that is something that we think could be used to fund a metaverse as well.
Okay, really sounds super exciting. So I was looking into obviously the token economy previously. I know you're talking about Republic doing the token design, that kind of thing. When would we have more information on the token design? Is that roughly going to be the start of next year now, or a bit earlier?
I think I think probably by the end of this year we'll publish something.
Okay.
We have rough drafts basically, but there's just a lot of still a lot of work left to do. And what we're going to put out is going to be, I think, a bit general, because there's still a lot of the detailed questions get very, very, very tricky. But we're going to start. I think we'll start putting stuff out, on how the token economy works. I think towards the end of this year, at the latest, beginning of next year. And our big focus is really we want to make this something that's simple, easy to understand, very clear, and very mainstream friendly. Like that's one of like our we have two big design principles for the tokens. Number one, the token should support gameplay. It should enhance gameplay and make it better.
Okay.
And number two, the entire game should be something that's easy for non-crypto people to understand. And we want to give them like a first introduction to how a crypto economy works. So we want to make something that we make as seamless as possible for new people to enter crypto, reduce barriers to entry, and just make the whole process as painless as possible. And also give them a real idea as to why, why they should take part in a token economy. And really there's different subsets of people that I think will take part in a game like Moonray. There's different types of gamers. And we have to have, an offering essentially that speaks to each different type of gamer in a different way. That's why, Moonray is going to end up being a pretty diverse, metaverse with lots of different ways of interacting with it, because depending on what your interests are as a gamer, there's going to be different ways for you to play and take part in the token economy.
Yeah. It kind of seems like this is a game for gamers rather than we're seeing a lot of play to earn, just be people who are doing it purely for we want to grind and make money, just the economic incentives. And this game seems totally different from that. Is that kind of your perspective with the
absolutely
play to earn from your eye view?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we say, the token should enhance gameplay. I mean, a lot of the projects we see out there are, from my perspective, blockchain economies, and the game is a UI interface for a blockchain economy. And that's all it is. And then that'll last for a little while, but then the game, some of those games to me, they don't look fun. That's not the kind of game that a real gamer is going to want to play. So, there's a lot of problems. If you think about how to design an economy like that just continues forever, good luck with that. Have fun. Let me know how that works. So we don't see.
You can see from the chart of Axie, you've got AXS, which is pretty much up, and then you've got SLP, which is down only. It's just people, they're clearly not playing that game for the enjoyment of the game, are they?
Yeah. I just don't see long-term how that works. I mean, like, who wants to do, it then becomes just a job, right? And it's just not that fun. I mean, if you want to have a shitty job, you can do that in the real world too. It's like, what's the point of going into a metaverse to have a crappy job? It's got to be fun. So we're very much, gameplay first, focus on gameplay, and the token is there to support gameplay and make gameplay better, in certain ways. And if the game is fun, then you will attract people. And if you attract people, you'll figure out the economics.
Yeah, sure. So when was it like your first aha moment for the whole play to earn crypto gaming stuff, rather than just making an indie game? When did you get that, okay, we need to go down the route of this play to earn economy, that kind of thing?
It was like halfway through the summer. It just, when I fully understood exactly, kind of how GameFi really works and the potential, it was just like, this is such a better model. I mean, it's just so obvious. So we switched right away. And ever since then, it's been like, it's been a roller coaster. What we're doing now would have been impossible. It's just like another little indie studio. The game industry doesn't understand it. They don't understand blockchain. I don't think the majority of them will. They, by the time they understand it, it's going to be too late. But there's a lot of resistance in the game industry to just the whole concept of blockchain, NFTs, which I get. I mean, it is a very new technology and it enables a new type of business model, but it's more, it's a fundamental rethink in the economics of a game, how a game interacts with its audience, how a game studio functions. It's just a total like top to bottom like restructuring of the game industry.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. And I don't think the big studios, the legacy studios are going to make it.
It seems kind of like they're ignoring it to a degree because maybe they don't fully understand it as yet. And also it would take so much restructuring from them to do. Maybe they don't really want to. They've already got huge revenues as is. Do you feel like the games that are going to release in 2022, like yours and some other big releases, are going to be miles ahead of the competition when eventually they do realize, okay, we're going to be blockbusted if we don't come in here?
I think that's exactly the problem that the legacy studios are going to face. I mean, I think they think that they can wait it out, 3, 4, 5 years and then acquire the companies that made it. But I don't think they understand what a token can do and what a token economy can do. There's going to be a lot of games right now that are just too big to swallow for any of the big studios.
Yeah.
Like who right now could buy Axie, for example?
No, they've got FU money.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so if they wait too long, it's going to be Blockbuster, Netflix. At what point did Blockbuster say we should buy Netflix? Well, the point that they thought that it was too late.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's so funny to watch in real time.
I know, and it's something I always see. But you know what? From the standpoint of the studios, I kind of understand. You have executives who live their whole life in one economic model. They make a ton of money. The game industry is booming, right? It's like record years for the game industry. So they're thinking, why should we cannibalize our business model that we know works? We know we're going to make this much money next year. Sure. So if in 5 years it changes, well, whatever, we'll just figure it out then. But it's like, no, if you don't figure it out now, you're not going to figure it out. And I don't think people grasp like how quickly crypto moves. It moves at a speed that's unlike anything else, right? So it's just like, you can't wait 3 years to get in. You got to do it right now.
No, it's incredible to see what's happened in the last 6 months. So thinking 6 months out from here, even, we're going to be leaps and bounds ahead. So the game of catch-up's going to be an impossible one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So touched on Stacks already. So people may not know, Stacks is the application layer for Bitcoin. It's probably only been really picked up and recognized during the last maybe 9 months, I would say. What made you choose to settle on Bitcoin? Why Bitcoin finality, and why Stacks? How did that kind of partnership mesh together?
Yeah, I mean, so Stacks, their mainnet launched in January. So in some sense, it's pretty new. I mean, it's been in development for years and years. The basic principle of Stacks, which I totally agree with, is that Bitcoin should be the money layer, and then Stacks is a gas token and is the programmable layer for Bitcoin. And the reason to settle on Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is the most decentralized network. It's the most secure. I don't think it's going to change. I'm personally a big believer in proof of work. I'm a believer in math. For me, math is real. And cryptography is a real thing. And to come in and attack Bitcoin, we know the hashing power you need to do that. That's, it's very difficult. So I don't see that changing. I see Bitcoin just continuing as the most secure layer. So Stacks is a way of using the security of Bitcoin to anchor another blockchain. So Stacks, technically it's a layer 1, but they call it a layer 1.5 because it's like, it's intimately integrated into how Bitcoin functions. So in other words, to reorganize the Stacks blockchain, you have to reorganize the Bitcoin blockchain. Okay. Because every Stacks block is hashed onto a Bitcoin block.
Wow.
So you can't change Stacks without changing Bitcoin. So it's kind of tied at the hip to Bitcoin. So that gives Stacks a lot of security. And it also enables, from the proof of transfer mechanism, a lot of interesting things. Like, for example, if you stake, or in Stacks they call it stacking, but if you stake the STX token, you earn Bitcoin yield. Any other blockchain, if you stake the token of that blockchain, you earn the same token, right? So Stacks, because of proof of transfer, you can actually stake one token and earn a second token instead. Okay. And that's something that's, I think it's a real technical innovation, and it's going to allow different types of business models that you can't really do now on other blockchains. And maybe we'll figure out a way of doing something like that.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. I always have been. So I think using Bitcoin as your security layer, I think it makes sense. It's the most decentralized, and I think it's going to continue like that for quite a while.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. So you're going to create maybe NFTs on there that they're going to live forever, which is pretty damn cool to think about.
That's right. And every NFT on Stacks references a Bitcoin block. So then, that NFT is basically tied to the Bitcoin blockchain, and you can't really change it. So I think that those are the kind of things. Personally, I think that there's going to be a lot of things happening on Stacks that are going to make it more and more valuable, because using Bitcoin as more than just the sound money layer, but it's basically the security layer for a whole host of applications. I think is going to become, really valuable soon, because people are going to realize what you can really do with that kind of security.
Yeah, sure. And you're part of the Stacks Accelerator program. What kind of leverage does that give you within the industry here?
So Stacks is still, the ecosystem is growing rapidly, but it's still in its infancy, I would say. For us, being part of the Accelerator was great. I mean, it was a great experience. There's a lot of other cool startups in it. We get a ton of support from the Stacks community in general. They're a great, fantastic community to work with. Everyone is interested in making sure that everyone succeeds. Right now we're the only game developing on Stacks. So we get a ton of support from everyone in Stacks. For that reason, because everyone's excited about having a cool game coming out on Stacks. But the developers are fantastic. There's just like a really vibrant community, and it's really fun to be a part of, because you see a lot of people are experimenting with new ideas and doing a lot of really cool new things. But everyone has the same principle of, let's make things as decentralized as possible. Let's let the entire community take part in everything that we do. And it's really like a community effort. And so for us, it's been really fun to be a part of that.
And is that how you partnered with Alex as well? for the DeFi layer.
Yes, exactly. So AlexGo.io, they were in the Stacks Accelerator with us. They're one of our partners. They're going to be doing a lot of really cool things with financial products in general. A lot of cool like DeFi financial abilities that they're going to make available to the public. And then with us, with Moonray, we're going to be doing interesting things with our NFTs and with our tokens with them that are going to give you like a whole layer of like financial, financial abilities that I think would be hard to do otherwise. So, for example, staking our NFTs and earning Bitcoin yield. That's something that we'll have,
Crazy.
soon, right? Same thing with I think with our tokens is what we're working on. So that's the kind of thing that you can get from being natively on Stacks that we think is going to be hugely valuable.
Okay. So in terms of like the NFTs, then, if they're on the Bitcoin network, that means that if we're, say, me and you are battling player versus player, and I win your skin, I could then take it to a marketplace and cash that out for Bitcoin. Is that correct?
Yes. So our marketplace, we're building it right now, and there's still a lot of technical things that we're solving, but I think that the way things are looking now, we're going to be using Bitcoin as payment. I mean, that's all transactions are going to be in Bitcoin. Yeah.
Cool.
And the way that it's possible is because it's really an NFT that's on the Stacks blockchain, but then Stacks itself is anchored to Bitcoin. So we can be basically doing those translations behind the scenes, so that you're paying, everything is happening in Bitcoin, and Stacks really is just like you said, the data layer. It's the smart contract layer, so that we can be exchanging NFTs, buying and selling, etc. But everything is Bitcoin native, and we're natively paying in Bitcoin.
Sounds super cool. So in terms of the first video I did on you guys, the kind of 30,000 foot overview, had a few questions as to how come Moonray is listed on Steam, because Steam have famously come out and said they're not going to be wanting any crypto-based games. How does this affect your like go-to-market strategy, or what's the way around this?
We'll see. I mean, one of the ways, it's kind of like, it's a tricky situation. I don't know how much you want to say, but I think that we're going to be on Steam.
I get
and
you.
that's what we're planning on right now.
I think,
and then until
realization.
And until something changes, that's our plan. They're going to have to kick us out, but there are other platforms out there. I think Steam, listen, again, it's like, do they want to be Blockbuster too? It's like, go for it.
Yeah, sure. I think they'll wake up and smell the roses.
They will.
For sure. So we've gone kind of over gameplay, the immersive elements to it, but we haven't mentioned the soundtrack as yet. For me personally, I think the music that accompanies a game is super, super important. Like, I probably spent too many hours on GTA back in the day listening to Radio Los Santos. So how the heck have you managed to get world-renowned producer DJ Tim Walls?
Well, he's a huge gamer.
Okay.
When we first started talking, like now we're good friends. And years ago, I said, hey, I want to make a game and I want a cool soundtrack. Are you interested? And he's a huge gamer. He's like big time. In fact, I think he's like a real big Dark Souls player. I think he's maxed out. I think he's at level 99 or whatever. He's like a huge. So when I said let's make it like an action RPG. The combat is, it's not a Souls-like, but we're inspired a lot by the way that Dark Souls works, and other kind of action games like that. So, he was all in on gaming. So, he did the soundtrack for us. He's going to keep doing more. He's doing a bunch of remixes now. And for me, I just really love his style. I think fits the mood of the game that we're making. And we're going to have, the soundtrack itself is going to be dynamic. It's going to change based on gameplay and what's happening in the game. But it really fits the mood of the world. And then the other thing that we've done that we haven't shown yet is that a lot of the visuals actually synchronize to the music. So like they synchronize to the beat, they synchronize to different elements of the song. So when the soundtrack starts to get kind of crazy, like the whole world will kind of start to pulse and stuff. So it's a really cool like hypnotic effect. But yeah, so we're happy. But Ten Wells is great. And we've been having parties in our Discord. He just did one last week or the week before. We're gonna have more.
That sounds so cool. I think having like the music absolutely time up with the movements in the game and things, you can imagine spending too many hours in it. You're going to get lost, aren't you? So I think this is what makes a highly addictive game.
Yeah, and I mean, we want to have like like if you just want to have fun and play the single player game and explore the world, we want to have that just be something you can do for hours and just go find cool new stuff. Or same thing with like co-op missions. We just have like different parts of a world and just have fun, listen to good music, and enjoy.
Yeah, this definitely does segue into the kind of events that you've talked about. So over on your Discord, you had DJ sets. I think you had 10 Walls. You had, I can't remember the last guy.
Tropics, DJ Tropics.
Mix was on as well.
Yeah.
Is this all part of the community building process that you've got going on?
Yeah, we're going to keep having more of those and then more contests and things like that. I mean, we kind of see Discord is sort of like a beta version of a metaverse, right? It's like that's where you can start to experiment with what the community wants to see and do, and eventually we'll be doing all that kind of stuff in a cool 3D environment. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more of that on our Discord, especially as we get closer to launching the token, starting the NFT drops and launching the game. There's going to be a lot more kind of gameplay related things that we do in Discord. But right now we're just having fun, just having little events for the community, DJ parties and things like that to kind of introduce people to the sort of style of what we do.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of the run up to Christmas now, do you have any community initiatives that you're going to be rolling out? Get people hyped over this period?
Yeah, I think we're going to do another big party, like 12 days of Christmas. We're going to be doing things like every day and then culminate in like a big, like kind of like a two-day party with some DJs. And then I think after Christmas, next year is when we're going to be doing, our development is really going to be in high gear, and we'll be ready to start showing off a lot of the things that we're working on to the public. So then we'll shift gears a little bit towards more game focused stuff after Christmas.
Okay, cool. So what do your kind of days shape up like at the moment? Are you on loads of calls all the time? Are you developing?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's been really crazy. I mean, we're through most of the like the initial fundraising was insane, and it's just like back-to-back calls all day long. And now we are more of just team building, expanding the team, getting to a lot of the game design questions, the creative questions of how we build the world. A lot more of the tokenomic questions. Yeah. Designing the token economy, making sure that interfaces properly with game design. So it's like a different phase of the company, but it is more fun because now we're really just heads down, focus on development. And that's why we're pretty quiet in general. We don't, every once in a while I'll post a few clips here and there, but we're not really a marketing focused company. And I don't think we will be for a while. We're a product focused company. So, my whole, and I've talked to, different, marketers, and they say, oh, what's your brand identity? And I say, listen, for a game, it's just a game. There's nothing apart from that. I don't need a brand identity package or anything like that. We're making a game. That's our brand, right? And that's what we're focused on. So we're just heads down, focused on game development, and blockchain development, and that's it.
Cool. In terms of things that are coming up, do you have any like alpha leaks you can give us here?
We're going to be, I think, announcing some like NFT partnerships, I think probably before the end of the year.
Okay.
I think we'll start showing off some of the first new environments that we're building now. That'll be part of the single player and the first like multiplayer missions. I think we'll be showing those off after the new year. We're working on those now. We're building everything in Unreal Engine 5 right now.
Okay.
And it's an open question as to what the first release is going to be in, if it's UE5 or UE4. It kind of depends on how stable UE5 is at that point. But then the video clips that we're going to start showing off, I think after the new year, are all going to be UE5 clips. So I think it's, UE5 is going to be pretty cool. So we're really excited about it. We're just waiting for it to get a little more stable.
I've seen some of the clips from UE5 and other games, and from UE4 to UE5 is quite a big difference, isn't there? I feel like
especially with environments. Yeah, the environments are really crazy.
They look as good as a human eyesight. Like it just looks super, super real. If you said to me that landscape is a picture someone's taken of, say, the Grand Canyon, or it was built in UE5, you can't tell the difference. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, UE5 really, what they did with what they call Nanite, which is the new geometry engine in UE5, it really is impressive. I mean, it really is a big technological leap. There's still some issues on how they handle, animated meshes, characters. They've got some work to do on the foliage, so that's why you're not going to see any of the UE5 demos you see. You never really see trees in them yet. That's something but they're working on it. But you can see where they're heading with it, and it's going to be, it is going to be really, really cool. And the amazing thing is the performance is really good, right? So those environments are actually really performant. So it's going to be a big change.
Yeah, super looking forward to that. So I wanted to just open the floor to you, kind of last question in terms of anything that we haven't covered here that you want to go over, things you're excited about that most people maybe don't ask you about, that kind of stuff.
You know, we're going to start showing off the some of the ways that we generate geometry. I think soon. Maybe before the end of the year, maybe early next year. So we're going to take a very different approach to generating content for the game that I think is going to change the way a lot of things function, and is going to tie into our NFT strategy, where we're going to be able to make lots of unique content for the game that's going to look really cool. That's going to be a very different way of making game content and of giving players a way to buy NFTs that are unique, or eventually when they mint their own NFTs have a unique look to it. So that's something that's really cool. We're working right now on the workflow, and you see there are NFT projects out there doing like algorithmic stuff in 3D. That there's a lot of people figuring out exactly how this is going to work. There's a lot of technical challenges, but I think that we're going to get it. At some point over the next 6 months, we're going to get all that solved, and then it's going to be, I think, a lot different in gaming. There's no one doing that right now in gaming. I think it's going to really change the way a lot of gaming works. But what I'm excited about is that we're having a ton of fun just coming up with new like visual concepts and story concepts, since we're not doing a medieval game and we're not doing near future. So the artists that we work with are having a ton of fun, because we tell them just go crazy. Like I'm not going to art direct you into the nitty gritty. Just go have fun, come up with something cool. If it looks cool, experiment. Yeah, just go nuts. And then over time, the whole visual style like slowly starts to gel. And some artists can work with that, some don't. Some want very detailed, like give me a whole bunch of 2D sketches. It's like, okay, fine. Our concept artists can do that, but really we like people that have fun experimenting and want to do something new. So there's a lot of that going on right now behind the scenes, but we'll start showing off some things, soon.
Yeah, I think this is kind of what makes it such a unique proposition for the game. There's just so many elements that I haven't seen previously. I think just building on Bitcoin itself as well, you've just got a lot of USPs, good selling points there. And I think people are going to be super excited for this come the start of next year. So where can we guys find you? Where do you want us to follow? Where should we direct people?
I think that the easiest is, moonray.game is our website, and all of our social links are there. You can get a link to our Discord there, or at Moonray Game is our Twitter handle. Whenever I remember to tweet, I send something out. Usually, I send out a clip, every day, but I'm putting a lot of our algorithms on there, so you can kind of see like what we mean by a fluid. Right. Yeah. I do usually once per day. And a lot of people still don't understand like how that's going to work in the game. That's the way it's going to work. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of the kind of stuff that we, that we're developing. Right. So that's why we're doing something that's it's just going to be really weird. Right. But we're for me, that was kind of like the whole point of this is use this technology to do something new, so we're by the time we're done, I think it's going to be a totally new game. It's going to play like a lot of games that you've played before. We're going to take the best elements of different games. So we're not reinventing the wheel with gameplay necessarily, but when you put it all together with a new type of like, a new look, a new idea of what a real futuristic technology should be, and then you tie that into a true token economy, I think it's going to create something that's going to be, something the game industry hasn't seen before. We do have a lot of like unique, propositions. We're trying to be, in some cases, we're like, are we being too unique? Like we can't do absolutely everything differently, but I think we may. I mean, like the next thing that we may announce here real soon is how our actual token is going to work. I think we're going to do something that, right now no one's doing in the gaming industry, and I think it's going to make sense in the long term. So I don't know. We'll kind of see how things go, but so far we're having fun.
Yep, different is definitely better. So agreed on that point there. Can we catch up maybe the start of next year, maybe get you on again, and then we can talk through some of the early releases and go through that? That'd be quite cool to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. What we'll do is, we'll make sure that for the next one, we'll show off some of the UE5 clips.
Amazing. That'll be super.
I think it'll be fun.
Cool. Well, we'll leave all the links down below in the description for everyone to follow along. Thank you for your time again today, Rodrigo. It's been a pleasure, and we shall catch.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right, man.
It was great to talk to Rodrigo there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything going on with Moonray as we bring you the latest updates and potentially some giveaways. Plus, be sure to check out the upcoming video on the screen, which is my overview of Moonray.